Have you ever been there? You're trying to learn about Islamic law. You ask a simple question and you get like three different answers, and everyone seems to be quoting the same sources. It can be super confusing, and honestly, it can feel like it's all just one big contradiction. But what if it's not? What if it's something else entirely? Okay, let's get into it.
Right, this is the big question, isn't it? How on earth do you have one faith, one Quran, one prophet, but you get different and yet somehow all valid rulings on the exact same issue? It feels like a paradox. But the answer is actually really beautiful, and once you get it, it completely changes how you look at the entire tradition.
And boom, here it is. This one sentence is the key that unlocks the whole thing. A school of law, a madhab, isn't just a big book of rulings, a list of halal and haram. Think of it more like an operating system. It's a complete, coherent methodology for taking in evidence and producing an answer. The rulings are just the output. The real genius is the system itself.
So with that in mind, let's meet the four major Sunni schools. But before we do, I need you to do something. Forget any idea you have of them being like competing football teams or different factions. That's not what this is. Think of them as four brilliant, distinct systems of analysis, each designed to be sensitive to a different, crucial part of the law.
First up, the Hanafi school. And I just love this description for it, the logic and consistency engine. That name tells you everything you need to know about its main priority. This system is built for stability, predictability, and, most importantly, scale.
So look at the historical context here, because it's so important. The Hanafi school grew up in Kufa, in modern-day Iraq. This was a massive, multicultural, bustling center of trade. They were dealing with brand-new, complex problems in business and government that simply hadn't existed before. So they needed a legal system that was super consistent and predictable for a huge, diverse society. And that's why they rely so heavily on legal analogy, or qiyas, to make sure the whole system hangs together logically.
And this question just nails their entire approach. Before they settle on a ruling, a Hanafi jurist is basically running a stress test. They're asking, okay, what happens if we make this the law for everyone? Does it cause weird contradictions down the line? Does it crash the system? It is all about maintaining that system-wide integrity.
Okay, next up, the Maliki school, also known as the living Sunnah guardian. And that word living is everything. For this school, the tradition wasn't just about what was written down. It was about what was being done day in and day out.
Now, this school came out of Medina, the Prophet's own city. For them, his sunnah, his practice, wasn't some ancient history they had to read about. It was all around them. They could see it in how the children of the companions prayed, traded, and lived. This practice of Medina became a cornerstone of their methodology, a kind of mass-transmitted, living proof of the original way.
So, their whole approach really boils down to this fundamental question. Before getting lost in theory, they ask a very practical question. Okay, but what did the first community actually do? How did they put this into practice? Their primary concern is that direct, unbroken continuity with the first generation.
Now, this is where it gets really interesting. If the Hanafis built a consistency engine and the Malikis guarded a living tradition, the Shafi school came along to be the system architect. And its founder, Imam Shafi, was a genius who had actually studied in depth with both the Hanafi and Maliki tradition.
Imam Shafi'i saw the strengths of both systems and set out to build a unified framework that could bring them together. He essentially created the master science of legal theory, usul al-fiqh. It's like he designed a compiler that could take in all the sources, Quran, Hadith, analogy, community practice, and process them through a clear, rigorous, and transparent set of rules.
So the Shafi question is all about the process. It's almost an engineering question. What is the most elegant, systematic, and methodologically pure way to handle all this data? Their focus is on perfecting the legal machinery itself to ensure the output is as sound as possible.
And that brings us to our fourth and final school, the Hanbali school. And the best way to think of it is as the verification firewall. Its main job is to protect the tradition from error and outside interference.
You absolutely have to understand the world the Hanbali school was born into. It grew up in Baghdad during a time of incredible political and theological chaos. People were just making up prophetic narrations, and the government was pressuring scholars to conform to certain views. So, the Hanbali methodology developed as a defense mechanism, a firewall. It emphasized extreme caution, sticking as close as humanly possible to direct textual evidence and avoiding speculative reasoning.
And this question
It gets right to the heart of it. It's so profound. It's rooted in a deep sense of piety and fear of God. The homily jurist is constantly asking, is the evidence for this so solid, so undeniable that I can confidently stand before God and say, you commanded this? If there's even a sliver of doubt, the default is to remain silent. It's about ultimate moral safety.
Okay, so we've met all 4 schools, 4 different systems, 4 different primary sensitivities. But here's the beautiful part. They aren't working against each other. They're working in parallel to achieve the same goal. Let me show you what I mean.
So imagine a legal question comes up. Instantly, the Hanafi engine is checking if the answer will destabilize the whole legal system. At the exact same time, the Maliki guardian is checking to see how the answer aligns with the lived practice of the first community. Then, the Shafi'i architect is running the evidence through its precise framework. And finally, the Hanbali firewall does one last check for absolute undeniable textual certainty.
And that is the big takeaway. The existence of these 4 schools is not a sign of weakness or contradiction in Islam. It is the tradition's greatest intellectual strength. It's a comprehensive, built-in system of legal intelligence, designed to approach divine law with the most care, rigor, and reverence from every conceivable angle.
Now, once you see it this way, it changes everything. But it also puts a certain responsibility on us as students of this tradition. So how do we engage with all this richness in a way that's wise and productive?
All right, this is the practical part. The big don't is to cherry pick, to just grab rulings you like from different schools without understanding the underlying system. That's like taking the engine from a Ferrari and the wheels from a pickup truck and expecting it to work. It's a recipe for disaster. Instead, the disciplined approach is to pick one system, one methodology, and go deep. Learn it well. And from that place of solid grounding, you can look at the other schools with respect and actually understand why they reached a different conclusion.
So we'll leave you with this final thought. Now that you see the schools not as rival teams, but as these sophisticated, brilliant operating systems, the journey looks a little different, doesn't it? The question is no longer which one is right. The real question becomes, which of these incredible systems will I commit to learning deeply? And that is a much more exciting and a much more powerful place to start.